So this morning we have Father Christopher with us to talk about silent prayer, which is sometimes known as contemplative prayer, though that makes it sound like something which is really just for the professionals. And he has a lot of experience in giving talks about prayer to lots of groups. And so we thought we'd benefit from this experience this morning.
Yes, well, I think anyone, whether professionals or not, who prays at all, finds at some stage in their lives, somewhere between, I would say, the ages of 18 and 30, that we seem to stop being able to pray. That is, we may continue to say set prayers and read them, but they seem, after a bit, they seem meaningless because of what we call distractions, the other things that come crowding into one's mind. Immediately one starts to think about something else. In fact, lots of other things usually crowd in. It's a bit like digging a hole in the sand. Water, whatever you do, inevitably seeps in. Our minds and all our experiences, I suppose, and surroundings and so on, like the ocean, are full of other things to think about. And you can't switch the mind off. At that point, what do? You can either give it up as a bad job or do the next thing in your day, or you can stay with it. For prayer, what is recommended is, say, a 20-minute session twice a day, and one does get into a habit of it and a habit of mind too, so the regularity is important. It's almost like brushing your teeth. You should be in a situation where you feel if you haven't done it, something's missing. The fact is, you want to pray, and for God, that is enough. One of the abbots of my monastery, perhaps about 50 years ago, used to say, to want to pray is to pray already. You may not feel that this is doing yourself or indeed anyone else any good, but in fact, our teachers of these things, and there have been many over the centuries and indeed thousands of years, assure us that this pleasing to God, this pleasing to God is what matters, or that this is pleasing to God, and that's what matters. There may seem to be nothing in it for you, but that doesn't mean it is not pleasing to God. He wants your love, and he doesn't need your fine speeches. You could think of the Victorian cartoon of two young lovers sitting close together in a rose garden. One says, "Darling," the other says, "Yes, darling," and the first replies, "Nothing, darling, only darling, darling." There is something else you can do. You can use what is called a mantra, a single word or phrase such as Maranatha. This word, meaning "Come, Lord Jesus," but there could be other phrases. And repeating this or similar phrase and thinking only of this acts like the black plastic gardeners put down to suppress weeds. And so we let through only the plants or flowers we offer to God of our love for him and our desire for him and to be with him alone. Nothing, but nothing matters quite so much as that to him, and it could perhaps also be to you.
Thank you, Father Christopher. I'm sure people have found that very helpful. I'm always reminded of the story of the curé of Ars in France, who's supposed to have seen a man going into church twice a day. And he asked him, "Well, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I pray." He said, "Well, how do you pray?" And the man just said, "Well, I look at God and God looks at me." Thank you again.